Hey, good evening, everyone. So yeah, I had a debate on Twitter earlier, which involved OJ from Player Essence, as well as some of his so-called ninjas, and it was all based off a tweet OJ replied to, where he stated that remakes of have no impact on the original game. As the original game is still there for the most part, if anyone wants to go back and play it, and that's certainly true for the most part. So I chimed in from what in my mind was a different angle on how remakes, without a doubt, diminish the original game in some way, shape, or form. But as the debate went on, I found it was near impossible to further elaborate on my point of view, as OJ, can be pretty stubborn, sometimes, I found, when it comes to debates. And if he has an opinion on something, then there's sometimes no room for any ifs or maybes. So if you want to see how the debate unfolded, then jump on my Twitter feed, from today, the link to which has, always been on my channel. I'm not asking for any follows on Twitter. I use it basically just to keep up on news and see what's going on in the world. But yeah, it's on my Twitter feed if you want to have a look. But what I want to do now is just simply elaborate on what I mean by original games being diminished in some shape or form once a remake is made. And when I say diminished, diminished just can be used in many ways. Whether it's weakened, it's lesser in some way, whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to directly affect the original itself. But I'm going to get into that now. So let's get into it. And of course, I'd love to hear your own thoughts on this. And yes, I'm open to other opinions. And yes, I'll listen to them. Unlike some people I know. So to start, I have no issues with remakes. I really don't. Many of us ask for remakes, and when great ones are announced and finally released, many of us jump for joy as we're able to enter the world we loved in a different form. This video is not about not wanting remakes or anything like that. This is purely about the impact that remakes have on the original game, and I'm talking video games here, but it can apply to other medias as well. So as you may know, I'm on the Juice is Loose podcast every Monday night, hosted by Terminator Juice. Make sure you check out these guys' channels. They're all in my links on my channel as well. And not long ago, we were discussing the fantastic remake of Link's Awakening on the Nintendo Switch. And a few of the members, were more than happy to say that they have no need to go back to the original now, as now this remake is out. And that was not them in any way dismissing what the original done or what it still is. That was them simply confirming that the remake to them is now the definitive edition. And considering that that it's for the most part a one to one remake, they don't feel like they are missing out on anything by not playing the original game again. Now, of course, when I say one-to-one, that refers, more to the story, general level design, and general mechanics for the most part. But we all can see and hear the difference between the remake and the Game Boy original. With the remake, sporting a far more appealing art style, in modern terms, modern regards, along with a more modern soundtrack and quality of life improvements over the original. People like me will be more than happy to play the Game Boy original again, even though the remake is out. But now, the fact that a remake has appeared, a modern one at that, the market mindset has now split on that game, and it's, without a doubt, diminished the appeal for some for wanting to play the original game, let alone people who might not have ever heard of Link's Awakening or may not have played the Game Boy original, which can also be found on the 3DS Virtual Console. But that's what I mean by the original being diminished slightly, not in an appreciation type of way, although some people see it like that, but more in a preferred to play type of way. Then, as another example, you have the recent Resident Evil 2 remake. Now, when I was talking to OJ, I asked him to Google the game to see what came up. The reason why I said that was another way of looking at how an original game can be affected by a modern remake or just any remake. If you Google Resident Evil 2, look what pops up in the search, which I'll put on the screen. Nothing but the remake. And like with many games and other medias, both Resident Evil 2 and Link's Awakening have exactly the same name as the original games. But at least the Link's Awakening search still shows and details the original. But for someone who's only just heard about Resident Evil 2, thanks to the recent release of this remake, if they search on it, this is all they'll see. Unless, of course, they search deeper into the net. And, that's where the original Resident Evil 2 has been diminished slightly. Not in the quality of the game, but in its visibility and stature of being the only Resident Evil 2 game. It's no longer just Resident Evil 2 now. We have 2 Resident Evil 2s on the market. And they are 2 different games, essentially. Then you have to ask yourself, would anyone, after discovering this remake and completing it later, go back and actively hunt down the original, find it and complete it whilst keeping an open mind? Of course, I'll let you decide on that. But as for me, I think the original's chances of being played have now greatly diminished thanks to this remake. But at the same time, also thanks to time and technology moving forwards, something that essentially diminishes everything. So once again, this isn't about depreciation of the original. It's just simply cause and effect when something is redone and remade. A girl in work today was talking about Star Wars, and I mentioned how Han shot first in the original release and not Greedo, and she said she never knew that. Now we all know that the remasters of the original Star Wars films cause much controversy. Even with George Lucas refusing to release the original theatrical releases, shouted that these remasters with all their changes are the definitive editions. So this is an example of when the originals have indeed been diminished, because we have essentially been blocked from watching them, and any newcomers will only know the new releases, even some unaware that the originals even existed. And stick with Resident Evil 2, this remake was done by different directors and different staff for the most part, compared to the original release. Was how the remake turned out the vision of Hideki Kamiya and Shinji Mikami, who directed the original game? Has the remake diminished their vision of what Resident Evil 2 was, or perhaps could have been if they had handled the remake? It's just more food for thought. But to me, it doesn't matter. If a remake ends up being good or bad, better than the original or worse. To me, it all has an impact on the original in some shape or form. And for me, a large part of that impact diminishes what the original was. If the remake is trash, people will hate that the original's name has been tainted somewhat, and that's then even worse if all people know is the remake, as they were, essentially unaware of, or they became increasingly unaware of the original as time goes on. And the popular internet searches, don't help. The marketing doesn't help when they plaster the remake all over the main searches. If a remake is a great success, then once again it can impact the original, by either making some people not go back at all, or for newcomers making the original hard or impossible to play, or as well, thanks to time and technology moving forwards, making the original feel even more archaic, but I suppose time and technology is a different take on diminishing returns in the context to this video, but they do greatly affect video games, as well many other things, well, most things. When the Xenoblade remake comes out, how many people will seek out the original game on the Wii or 3DS and want to play that over the remake, which looks to do the same thing other games like Crash Bandicoot Remake, Shadow of the Colossus, and Link's Awakening remakes have done, by offering, for the most part, far more compelling reasons to ignore the originals and only play the remakes. So, yes, the originals will always be there. Yes, you could go back and play them for the most part if you really wanted to, but remakes, without a doubt, in my mind, impact the originals in multiple other ways, and it'll only be the rare few diehards and fans who have no issues with going back and playing the originals. One question you could ask yourself is, why do we want remakes in the first place? And when we ask ourselves that question and delve into the following reasons, then ask yourself, would that affect or diminish your wants or needs to go back and play the original? But I think I'm done here. Hopefully I got my points across. But please fire away below in the comments section. I'll respond to every single one of you with an open mind on that topic. And once again, it's a different, it's different for everyone, depending on how they feel, about games. But even just the games themselves, you need to call in the platforms as well. Would you prefer to play, Link's Awakening on the original Game Boy or the 3DS? For many, playing it on the 3DS is the preferred platform, so that diminishes their needs to want to play it on the original Game Boy. And then you got the Nintendo Switch itself, which is, for most, a better, more ideal platform for playing these types of games on. And having Link's Awakening Remake on that platform, once again, diminishes the need to want to go and find and play it on a Game Boy and 3DS. But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling on now, but yeah. Thanks for listening all. Leave your comments below. I'll reply to every single one of you. Take care and peace.